Hello and welcome to the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast with me, Clive Barber, and my good mate, Noel Tom. For the days when you can't ride your bike, there's always the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast. So today we're joined by film star and TAMP listener Darren Higginson, who in 2012 rode all the way from London to Sydney with his mate Dave Darcy. The trip was immortalised in the film Continental Drift, although if you search on YouTube, have a look for London to Sydney Motorcycle Adventure full length. It's on Mad TV, which is Motorcycle Adventure Dirtbike TV on YouTube. It's had a massive 4 million views. While you're there, check out Mad TV. It's Dave Darcy's channel. There's loads of great content. We're really enjoying chatting to our rather excellent listeners. And as Darren said, everybody has a story, and this is his. Anyway, we love chatting to Darren, and we hope we can do it again in person soon. Have a listen. I'm sure you'll enjoy it too.
No, it's funny, that thing you're saying about knowing us. A lot of people do say that, and it's kind of fair enough, because kind of what you see is what you get pretty much. We're not always this cheerful and positive in real life.
Well, who is? Who is always positive and always in good humour? That's just part of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm always really grumpy up to about 2 seconds before I join these meetings. I'm always like, oh, bloody hell, I've got to do another bloody podcast. Hello!
And that's it. You've got to put your happy face on, haven't you? There's no point. Who wants to listen to a grumpy old bastard?
Yeah, but I am a bit tired though, Noel, if you could do the funny tonight, if that's all right. Do you know it's just from the podcast, or have you watched the films?
No, I've watched some of Greg's stuff.
Bit part players, minor league.
You're all part of the team, mate. So regardless whether you think you've got a bit part or not, everyone pulls a string in the team.
I'm just saying what Greg says to us.
Are we recording now, or do you have a clapperboard and go, right, okay?
No, one of the things I've learned, or that we have learned over the time, is just to start recording as soon as possible. Because quite often, if you say to somebody, right, I'm going to start recording now, their face goes from having a laugh to...
That's what, like when you point a camera at someone. I don't like particularly talking to camera, as in like holding my own camera and talking to it. I don't know, I just get very conscious about it.
A lot of people do.
I have terrible camera face, and it's a real issue. I just cannot get over it. I can't just relax if someone points a camera at me.
Whereas if I see a camera from like 100 metres away,
you run at it.
running to be
run
in
towards it.
You guys live near each other?
Yeah, we're about 10, 12 miles away from each other, I guess.
And I'm assuming it's up towards like Cumbria.
Yeah, we're kind of either side of Knowles, north of Kendal, and I'm kind of east of Kendal.
You know this area at all, Darren? Have you been up much?
I've been up lots of times, mate. I went up. I used to go there on my own when I was about 16, just backpacking around, because I just liked walking, climbing, and all the rest of it.
Would that be a train journey?
It would have been a train journey, yeah. I was brought up in London, so I've always lived. I don't live there now. I was a London firefighter for 30 years, but my first posting was Tooting. But so we would cover Streatham, Wandsworth, Brixton, Clapham, as well as our own ground.
I lived directly opposite the Brixton fire station for about 3 years.
Well, I used to work there a lot, because we would go on out duties, they're called. So if your manpower is above the establishment, your minimum riders, someone else could be short, and you just get sent out. You just get your bag and just jump on a tube or jump on a bus and say, hello, mate, I'm your driver for tonight, or whatever it is. So what brought you down to London? Was it IT?
I was a student in Liverpool back in the mid-'80s, needed to find work. There literally were no jobs in Liverpool. And it was always one of those things, I want to go down and live in London for a bit, see what it's like, just do it for a year. 14 years later, I got a kid, and time to get him out before he gets a Cockney accent.
Yeah. All right, governor.
Clive's had this funny life where you can mention any vocation, any sort of location, and he'll have some connection to it. He'll have worked in it, lived near it.
It's just about Clive.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything. He's got some
5
connection
degrees
to
of
everything.
separation. Clive's been everywhere.
Yeah, but with me, it's only like 1 degree of separation.
Honestly, the moon. Yeah. I trained to be an astronaut. Yeah.
So I do know Neil Armstrong. Did you formulate any questions at all? Kind of like, what were your interests, and what was your kind of aspects of attack that you were looking at?
For you, to talk to you tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, basically, I've got a couple of scribbled pages of questions. That's what I tend to do. And then Noel tends to rock up late and just ask far better, more interesting questions than I've spent 3 days thinking about.
What I didn't want to do is find myself just kind of rambling on and saying, well, we did this, then we did that. I find it more, as a listener, I find it more interesting as a conversation.
Yeah, and ideally, the question that comes up, I listen to podcasts where somebody interrupts and asks something, and you think, that's exactly what I wanted to know. Richard Bacon, I used to speak to Richard Bacon a lot, and he would always ask things that I would want to ask. But you thought nobody's ever going to ask that, and he would just jump straight in. I remember him talking to Steve Backshall. Yes. All he was interested in is what's the most dangerous thing, that you've ever found. All these sort of childish questions about what's the worst injury you've had, what's the most dangerous animal you've ever come into contact with. Anyway, don't put that in, Clive. That's very dull.
Yeah, it is very dull.
I'd
try and edit you out as much as I can, to be honest.
Right, so I'm ready to start on you, fellas. My name's Darren, and I got into biking when I was. Is that going to sound all right, or is that going to like where you look at just my name and?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm not editing this out. This is staying in. This is good stuff.
Just general AA meeting kind of introduction.
Okay, well, my name's Darren, and I'm a bikeaholic. No, I'm not. First got into motorcycling in the early 90s, but couldn't really justify having a bike because I lived in London. I kind of worked about 4 miles from where I lived, and I used to run to work and run home, and I had no need for a motorbike, although I really would love to have one. It just couldn't justify the cost. So when we wanted to buy a house, we moved out of London, and that was my kind of like my dream ticket because I could kind of justify a bike. Then I'd commute back into London. My commute was 75 miles each way. I did that on a daily basis. My first bike, I bought a brand new one. I bought a brand new CBR 600, and I was about 30, 31, 32, something like that. This bike was kind of getting its arse kicked. I was running all the time, all year. It was getting serviced about every 2.5 months because I was doing the mileage for it.
That's a long commute. Was that A roads or motorways or a mixture?
It was motorways. Yeah, I'd get onto the A41 and get down to the 25, around the 25, M4, and then just work my way through South London to get to the station. Did that for best part of a year, and then a massive crash, and realised, because I was getting up at 6, getting to the station for like 9. By the time I was kind of getting home, it was like 9 o'clock at night. So these are long days, and I was kind of like, I'd been working all day, and I was just getting knackered, and I did it for about 11 months, and I was going, man, this is too much. And just lost a bit of concentration, probably travelling a bit too fast as well. And a good old huge crash. I was lying in the middle of the road, covered in oil and steam, and going, fuck me, what am I doing? I'm going, this is fucking nuts. So I got transferred to another station, and then my commute was dropped to about 50 miles each way. And then my final change was when I got up to North London, and my commute was about 40 miles in each way, which 80 miles wasn't too bad. So that was a bit more acceptable. And I did that for the rest of my career, basically.
Were you injured at all in that crash?
No, not badly. No, I wasn't going super duper fast, but too fast for the conditions probably. And I was filtering as well, so it wasn't good. it didn't end well.
So how did you make the transition from commuting on a road bike to getting some knobbly tyres on?
I enjoyed the stuff that Austin Vince was doing, like the Mondo and the Terra Circa and that kind of stuff. And I also had an interest in the Dakar Rally because I enjoyed watching motorcycle racing.
I think he's going to mention Charlie at least in a minute.
No.
It's allowed.
Because I had a few bikes. I had the TBR 600. I think I sold it with about 60,000 miles on it. So that was quite high. And I had it from new. I think I had a Triumph 955i Daytona, a Super Blackbird, which was like the Starship Enterprise. It was like a thought bike. I want to be down there. Oh, I'm there already. It was just absolutely nuts. Then the first bike I bought that had any kind of off-road pretense was a 950 Adventure. I think the first trip I did with that was we went out to the Alps. We was doing kind of day trips out around kind of like the higher level mountain trails basically, and that was good.
And you'd gone for that bike obviously because it was a good bike to travel on. Was that your thinking behind getting something quite big?
Yeah, I thought it was a good touring bike because I've got the plastic luggage of it, like the old KTM boxes. Did a few trips down to the Alps, and then off the back of that, I bought a 950 Supermoto, which was a bizarre bike at the time, but that was bonkers as well. That was so grunty, and I can't wheelie, but I could with that thing. It was just like you'd roll the throttle and the front wheel would be pouring the air without any kind of help. I got a 640 Enduro because I realised that the 950 Adventure was a bit of a big bike to handle, and I'd had no experience of riding it, as in I've got no kind of, not a youth motorcycle rider. I was kind of like 30 years old on a big bike, and we all know the foibles of doing that.
You were looking for a do-it-all bike, though, obviously, were you, at this point?
Yeah, I think I wanted to take with some legs that I could get somewhere and then do something when I was there. I had the 640 Adventure, and that took me into kind of like the mid-2000s. But at the same time, I was also getting into kind of video making or video shooting, and just stuff that I kind of put together myself. And I think it was just as YouTube was coming along. So probably like in the mid-2000s. I'm not sure when YouTube started. I think I joined it in about 2006, something like that, or maybe 2007. And just had a channel there and just started putting some stuff up. And as I was watching other people's stuff as well, I saw some stuff that Dave was doing. Dave Darcy, who was a guy I did the trip with, and just contacted him kind of via just a message on one of his films, saying I'm enjoying what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And he messaged back and we just started a little conversation up. Before I knew it, I was going out to Australia. This was not premeditated to meet him or anything, but what I did do, I bolted a trip on to ride with him and his mates. So we went out into the kind of the Blue Mountains and up into Hill End, and where some of the old mining places, and had a ride out. Got on really well. And then when I came back, we continued to keep in contact. And then it wasn't till I think about 2010 that we started to get, started really kind of keeping in contact and on a regular basis, and started talking about doing a bigger trip. I think I'm sure it was Dave who suggested it. He said, "How do you fancy riding from my house to your house?" Or sorry, from your house to my house, as from London to Sydney. And I thought about it for about 30 seconds and said, "That sounds like a great idea." I've always been a person who, if I say I'm going to do something, I'll do my damnedest to do it. So we started to think about it and about making a film of it. Dave came to Europe. I think it was in 2011, the year prior to us leaving. And during that trip, we went all around Europe. We went all through the Pyrenees and south of France and through the French Alps, Switzerland. We're supposed to go to visit Ducati, and we didn't get down to Ducati because of the weather was pretty rubbish where we were. So we basically headed towards Austria, and I'd arranged a visit to the factory via some PR people in the UK, or PR person for the UK. So we turned up at KTM factory, just have a little kind of visit and show around and see the place. And the guy doing the show round was the PR manager for the company for KTM. And we just got like a house on fire. And we was just chatting away. And we just showed him some videos and stuff that we've done, and showed Dave's got a far bigger kind of following and channel than I had.
Dave's channel is Mad TV, isn't it? Motorcycle Adventure Dirtbike TV. Yes.
When I knew him, it was called eDog 200. And he changed it to kind of like cover all
search engines, basically.
Yeah, like exactly that. You know better than I do.
Was he quite prolific from the word go then? In terms of video making?
He had his free time must have been immense compared to mine, because he seemed to be out every weekend or week on trips. But they've got the ground there. They've got the kind of terrain to do that stuff. Get yourself an hour and a half out of Sydney, mate, and you're kind of in the boonies. Yeah, so anyway, we got chatting to these guys, and we actually told them what we were doing. That Dave come over, seeing how we worked. We made a little film of our little trip around Europe, and said, we're going to go. We got a couple of I had my 640 Enduro, and Dave had a 640 Adventure. We said we're going to do them on those. You know, when you're kind of trying to read someone about how they're kind of responding to you, and I looked at him and I thought, he seems quite interested. More interested than I would have thought. He started asking us questions. He was a bit proactive towards us.
This was probably the same guy that missed out the long way round.
Reading between the lines, I think they get a lot of requests for stuff. People kind of contact and say, "Oh, mate, I'm doing this trip, lend me a bike to do it." And we didn't do that. We didn't say what we wanted. We were just saying what we were doing. And I think we did say, if you want to get involved, feel free. And one of the questions to us was, do you think you can do it on a single cylinder bike? We wasn't going to say no. So we said, yeah. I had no idea. I hadn't done any long trips on a single cylinder bike. But we left the factory and went on our merry way to continue our trip. Fast forward 3 months or so towards the end of the year, I got an email from KTM saying we'd like to offer you, we'll lend you some bikes for the trip. And I couldn't believe it. I was kind of like, Jesus, that's not every day that a major manufacturer wants to lend you some bikes and go and make a film. So that was great. So then what we started to do was we started to obviously prepare rather seriously, because as they say, shit got real. We had committed to it, gratefully so as well. So what I did was, off the back of that, when you get a major manufacturer supporting you, it opens doors for you as well, because they've got suppliers and companies they deal with within the marketplace that will want to get involved. They want to be involved, but they also don't let the competition in to be involved either. So what I did was I formulated an email, pretty generic email, explaining what we're doing and all the rest of it, and just sent it out to their suppliers and say, do you want to be involved in this project? I sent it out to Akropovich and Arai helmets and tyre manufacturers. We've also approached Motrex. I sent one to Dave. Dave Lomax got an email.
Yeah. Did everyone respond?
Pretty much everyone I asked agreed to help us, because they saw it as a project that was legitimate and had a manufacturer behind it. So they knew it was going to work, or knew it's going to be a starter at least.
We can learn from this, Noel. We could write to Lavazza, get some coffee, and Mr. Kipling, and maybe get some cakes. Milk marketing board, milk for your latte.
But the bike one was key, wasn't it? That's once you've got the bike deal.
That was the biggest piece. That was the piece of the jigsaw that no one else could provide. That we had that straight away, which is, you'd have to ask the other people why they got involved with this. It wasn't our intention to even ask for stuff.
Well, it's kind of paid off for them in a way, hasn't it? Because tell us how many views that video has got on Mad TV on the YouTube channel.
Well, it's kind of for 4 million,
which is insane, isn't it? Really,
it's quite a lot.
It's literally lot.
It's several.
It's literally
more than several.
Dave told me once, not so long ago, because I was chatting to him recently, and he said it gets something like 10,000 hits a day, and it doesn't get any dislikes. Yeah, everyone seems to like it.
And at this stage, had you already started planning a route, quite a specific route to take?
What I thought I'd caveat this with is this is the way we did it. This is maybe not the way that everyone does it. But we didn't actually do a specific route. We didn't tie it down to certain routes, certain roads. We just chose a general direction. So we knew we was heading east. We knew the countries that we were going to head through. Because first of all, obviously, we went through France, Germany, Austria. But then Dave has got a connection with the Czech Republic because his wife is Czech. And so we had to visit there. And then we bounced on to Poland. And we went through Shremzor, I think it's pronounced, which is quite in the news at the moment. And then we went into Ukraine, went through Kyiv. And I don't think we went to Kharkiv. But then we obviously went out the other side of the border between Ukraine and Russia. This was obviously pre-2014, so it was open to us. And then we headed to Volgograd, which is obviously previously Stalingrad, or the commemoration of the battle there. But then what we had to do was, because of our involvement with Continental Tires, their kind of drop-off point for us was Samara, which is up the Volga. So we had I think it was about 800 Ks. Because we look at the map, when you look at the map in France, it's a big country. We often look at England and kind of that's not too far away. But France is a big country.
When you're looking at Europe, you often just glance at the UK to get that's your idea of scale, isn't it? You think, well, I know what it's like. Yes,
exactly. Because it looked like Samara was just up the river from Volgograd. Yeah. But I think it's about 800 Ks.
Yeah, so, we have an area. Everything is an area the size of Wales. Whereas there, It's an area the size of Poland, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if it was before Volgograd or after Volgograd that Dave's fuel pump went. And then we was in kind of like recovery mode. And we knew we had to move forward. So we towed the bike basically to Samara. We met some guys at the side of the road who also had a KTM. And I think it was a 990 or a 950. He just helped us out. He got us to a mechanic. And because we were struggling to get the fuel pump disconnected from the pipework, basically it's kind of clamped over. If you try and forcibly remove it, you'll break the pins that hold it in. So we was crapping ourselves because if we broke it, then it is all over. We got to this mechanic and he actually did do what we were scared of doing, but he did it and it worked. So he managed to get the pump off. We did have a spare one, put it on and the bike was going again.
Did you have much mechanical expertise between you before you set off?
Hardly any. I could probably change a tyre and replace a few brake pads, but mechanically wise, I couldn't do a deep dive into the engine and say, yeah, the stator's gone.
Did Dave think it was bad fuel at the beginning?
We never knew what it was because the parts got binned off.
I just thought perhaps he thought the fault was caused by by bad fuel rather than a bad fuel pump, and then you later discovered it was the pump?
It could have been a mix. It could have been a combination of all three. I know that John at Rally Raid now, they do some kind of alternative filter system. I can't remember whether they go smaller or go larger. Being too small can block it up and starve it of fuel.
In this situation, are you quite positive, and are you thinking we can get this fixed, or are you thinking this could be the end?
It's about a frame of mind, isn't it? I knew I wanted to carry on. Did you see the part in the film at the very start of it when I broke my wrists?
Yes. Well, how did you break your wrists?
A motorcycle accident. So I wind it back a little bit. I know we're going to jump around a bit. So when you're doing a big trip, your passport becomes very, very important to you because you're starting to build up a collection of visas. They're time-consuming and expensive to get. I think one of the last ones I could get hold of was my Chinese visa. And normally what I'd do is I'd go to consulate services, put my passport in, it would get processed, it'd come back to you with the visa stuck in the passport. I decided for the Chinese one, which was I think was one of the last ones I got, to go down to London to pick it up. Because I thought, if I lose that in the post, I'm like a month away from going. It's gone. My chance of
Presumably most of those visas are all time limited as well.
They are, because you can't, we read through loads of them because we had to get quite a few. But most of them are time limited by you can't apply too early as well as too late. Your travel time must be about 3 months. That was kind of the average away. So we couldn't start applying the year before to get visas for the following year. It just doesn't happen like that. So, yeah, I went down to London to pick it up. And I was just getting into around the North Circular. A woman was just pulled out in front of me. I went over the bonnet, ended up on the road. Luckily, I wasn't riding one of the KTMs. I was riding my own. I had a GS at the time.
Was it putting your hands out that broke your wrists? Was it the way you felt?
Yeah, I'm sure it was as I braced myself for the impact, because I tried to steer away, but she didn't stop. She just kept going. So I kind of met her on the white line almost. As she kind of she turned and kind of closed me down, hit the side of the car, went over the bonnet. I was laying in the middle of the road going, fuck. that wasn't in the script.
This is why it's so important if you're planning a round the world trip that you get a PA, rent some offices.
I was sitting at the side of the road and I was looking at my wrist going, Jesus, that's a bit of a bump on there. Not knowing that I'd actually broken the end of my wrist off, broken the end of my arm off. I was wearing though, which was Dave Lomax's jacket and pants, the climb stuff. So I was trying to wear it in. I don't know.
You were certainly wearing it in.
I was. But the thing is, it survived. It didn't have a mark on it. It was quite a testament to the kit that it didn't. I mean, I wasn't going fast, so I didn't kind of go 70 feet down the road. I just went over the bonnet and kind of really had a bit of a roll.
So that must have been an interesting call to Dave to tell him.
Well, it was funny because we were pretty much in conversation on a daily, sometimes twice daily rate, because it was getting near to the time. And Dave was not long from leaving. I think he was probably about 2 weeks away from coming over to the UK anyway to fly over, because he had to get further visas from London. There wasn't at the time a Kazakh consulate services in Australia. So he couldn't make an application. He either going to send his passport to Kazakhstan to get it sent back again, or so he decided to do it in London. So that was his kind of jeopardy, was if he didn't get a Kazakh visa, he was buggered and all. Obviously, our communication stopped. I was in hospital waiting to get operated on. I think I got operated on the next morning. Luckily, I say luckily, fortunately, it was broken so badly that it needed internal fixation, screws and a plate. So basically, it gave me some internal structure to my wrist.
And this is with how long to go until departure day?
4 weeks.
Oh, goodness. Mind you, it does remind me of the last time I had an injury, and I said to the doctor, doctor, when can I ride my motorbike again after the surgery? And he went, oh, straight away. But don't fall off for about 3 months.
What did you take, Clive? I can't promise that. I can't do that.
No, do you know what? I was very good. I didn't actually ride again because it really hurt. So it was just like, I really don't want to go through that pain again.
I had it in a cast for about 3 weeks. And then I went back to the surgeon in London on the train to see him and speak to him. And he was going to x-ray it and see how it was going. So obviously I had this big question on my lips to say, would I be all right to ride? And he didn't kind of say yes or no. He just said, it's up to you. I thought, well, you're right. It is up to me. So I'm going to go for it. This opportunity may never come around again in my lifetime. And another thing that kind of was in the back of my mind was one of my closest buddies, right around the same time as kind of this question of doing the trip come up, that he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And me and him would go running together, and we've done quite a lot of bike trips. Me and Chris have done Norway, Iceland, all over the place. When he told me, I thought, shit, he was as fit as a flea. I thought if he can get diagnosed with cancer, I could get diagnosed with cancer. It's so random. We have to take these opportunities when they arrive, because if you say, we often kind of kick the can down the road and say, well, I'll do it when I retire. But if you've got an urge to do something, you might as well get on and do it. Because
it's a big reminder, isn't it?
Yes, it was. It was probably the biggest wake-up call I've had to do something that I wanted to do. Fortunately, and I say fortunately, Chris is still around.
Hey,
great.
And he's going to be my best man in June. So that's there's a nice story as well.
Yeah.
He had quite a lot of treatment for cancer, and he ain't over it. It's still so that he's living with.
It's interesting you're talking about the visas, because one of the things that really annoys me about most TV programs is this jeopardy of time. If we don't get there, the ground will swallow us up, and it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake! But it does sound like with the visa situation, and presumably because you have to have a guide through China, it was time critical.
Yes, well, that was the total linchpin of the trip. If we weren't on that border, and I don't know if you've ever looked, if you know where the Turgat Pass is, it's like 3,500 meters up mountain, and it's in the middle of nowhere. Because what you do is you go from Kyrgyzstan up the Turgat Pass, over the top of it to these big shiny gates.
Noel, if you don't know where that is, you ride up to Penrith and turn right and just keep going.
It's like Hard Knot Pass, and you get to the top and then you go down the other side. But what they do is because it's like a military outpost there. When you cross the border into China there, you ride for another 150 k's escorted to the customs post, because during the winter it's impassable. They pick you up in a car, and then what we had to do was we had to organise via a company in Kashgar, which is also quite in the news of recent years because of the Uyghur situation. We went there, met up with the company, and then they provided driver, a translator, and basically an authorised government guide. And they followed us down the border road, the Jeep.
Presumably you have to pay for that privilege as well.
That was the most expensive part of the trip.
Can we just rewind a little bit? Because before you got to China, there was the threat of imprisonment. How serious was that threat? Because that sounded terrifying.
It was real.
So just explain what had happened in that situation.
What we should have done was, and this is all great in hindsight, because we broke down and we had the delay of getting it sorted out, I think we had about 5 days in Russia, which is more than enough if we hadn't broken down. When we rocked up at the exit post to go into Kazakhstan, the rather stern gentleman on the gate said, "I'm sorry, you've overstayed your visa. We view this very seriously. You have to go back to Samara to go to the Federal Immigration Services to work it out." So he thought, fuck, didn't expect that. We'd kind of, during the kind of melee of trying to sort the bike out, we totally overlooked this stamp in our passports saying how long how long it was. We had a single entry visa. We should have had a multi-entry visa, and that would have extended our time that we could be there, because I think there was a stipulation about how long you could actually be in the country. It meant a 300-kilometre ride back to Samara. Lucky enough, the guy who we met helped fix the bikes. He was familiar with the geography of Samara and helped us sort it out and explained in Russian what had happened to us, why we were delayed. And it was all genuine.
Who actually translated to you, or did you hear it in English? The length of prison that you could face.
Well, basically, we had to fill these forms, sign these forms to say what we'd done, and we were fined. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't a massive fine by any stretch, but we were still fined, fingerprinted. We were processed.
And these were confessions in Russian that you couldn't actually read.
I couldn't read it. I just put my name to it. That's the mad thing about it. It was genuine. We paid the fine and we got our visas. There's some alteration done to our visas. They were stamped up. We couldn't stay anywhere because we didn't have because when you as a foreign national, you have to have a visa to stay anywhere.
Persona non grata.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of get out pretty sharpish. We made our way to the border. When we got there, it almost felt like they knew we were coming, because they hardly even looked at our passport. It's like, okay, off you go.
Wow, what a turnaround.
Yeah.
You say you didn't have anywhere to live, but one of the things you did do, Noel, imagine this, is you took a 2-man tent to share with each other? What was that all about?
We were trying to cut down on the weight.
Did neither of you snore?
No.
Oh, that's all right then.
Because you mentioned it at the beginning of the film, Darren, and I wondered whether as you got to Grenoble, you sort of, or as you got to the end of, the edge of Europe, you thought, let's just buy another tent. But you didn't.
No, we didn't. We didn't.
Testament to your relationship.
Well, it's funny, though, because we didn't actually do a massive amount of camping. If I'm honest, I'm sure Dave won't mind me saying this. Dave is a reluctant camper. we only camped when we needed to.
So it was just your backup, really.
It was, yeah. I mean, we used it a lot in Kyrgyzstan because there wasn't much accommodation. And we also wanted to stay up by Somkol, kind of like the high level lake. I mean, we did just sleep on the grass when we was in Kazakhstan. Because Kazakhstan was where we was kind of like trying to make time up. And one evening, kind of like, I think we was riding until about 9 o'clock at night, and it was quite light. So we just literally turned off the road, rode off the road for a little while, just down the grass track, got into kind of like some lower level ground compared to the road, and just got our DOS bags out and just slept in the grass.
I'm just comparing and contrasting that scene to the camping scene that we normally have with us, Noel, and like we're all spread out across the campsite just to get away from each other snoring.
Yeah.
And there's you two sharing a tent. I think that's lovely. Maybe we should just take one big tent on our trip to Spain.
We basically split the kit between us. We were on small bikes and we were going across the globe basically. So we had one tent, one cooker between us.
With hindsight, do you feel like you packed pretty well and pretty light?
I guess the other answer to that is, what did you chuck away en route, if anything?
Because we were going across different climate areas. So, like, obviously, when you go across Kazakhstan, it's really hot. In fact, the nights in Kazakhstan were quite warm. But as you get closer to the mountains, and when we was traveling down through the Himalayas, it's very cold at night time. So we had to kind of carry kit for different climatic situations. So what we ended up doing was, when we got to Kathmandu, we parcelled up all our kind of cold weather gear and sent it home, and then just carried on going with the stuff we had.
What were you filming on? You must have obviously had GoPros on helmets, but anything other?
Yeah, we both had.
Oh wow! Look at that.
So it's a reasonable size, but they both had one of those each. Probably enough footage to make a 3-hour film. We could probably make a little mini series out of it, but we chose to just do it. Or Dave did the actual edit, because there was no point. We couldn't work each other in the world, so he just did the edit and the end.
I always wanted a camera that looked like a proper camera, and it's kind of been and gone, hasn't it? Now you'll make a great film with just a GoPro camera.
I tell you what are really good these days is on the modern phones. If you get like a reasonable app on your phone, you've got the bit rate of a modern an iPhone or so isn't the same as a bit rate on a pro video camera. For most people's viewing, if you're not going to put it in the cinema, you view it quite well, because most of it's viewed on the phone anyway.
So this trip was 10 years ago now, 2012. How do you look back on it now? Do you look back on it fondly? I mean, obviously, you must be really proud to have done it.
Yeah, I feel like it was an achievement. There was quite a few things rolled our way that we could have easily disrupted the trip and kind of caused some chaos. Sometimes you've got to just kind of say, well, I've got a problem. How am I going to deal with it? Like life itself. As cheesy as that may sound, either you've got to find a reason to stop, or you've got to find a reason to carry on.
By the end of it, had you sort of? Well, I was going to say, had you had enough of motorcycles? Was it a while before you took another big trip afterwards? I
haven't done anything like that since, as in not that big. I've done kind of like your normal kind of holiday trips. But one thing I did do was, I don't know if you remember back to the story, but there was a guy called Steve who drove the van when we first crossed, because I was basically riding with a broken arm and I couldn't even bend my wrist. So I literally had to kind of accelerate by dropping my elbow to kind of get any forward momentum.
How far did Steve drive? Where did he get to?
Steve drove to the Polish border. We was hoping to get to Russia with the van, but when we got to the Polish border, we couldn't actually enter Poland with a photocopy of the V5, which we had from the hire company, because they don't obviously give you the genuine V5s. So that was a bit of a decision. I had to basically decide, am I going to carry on regardless, or am I going to put the bike in the van and go back home? And it was a no-brainer. I wasn't going to give up. One
of the things you did get along the way, and it's something that all travellers talk about, is that kindness of strangers. No matter where you are, you always, whatever the problem was, you always seem to have somebody just appear and help you out. And that's a common theme, right, with a lot of travellers. I don't think there's anyone who's done any kind of travelling of any length who hasn't had a problem where people haven't come to help them. It's a heartwarming thing. You've only got to look at what's going on at the moment. It's an absolutely terrible situation, and everyone's kind of demonising the Russians, and it is bad what's going on. It's fucking beyond bad. But all the Russian people I've ever met, which are just the normal people, have been as nice and as welcoming and helpful than any people you could meet. Oh, well, 99.999 of them probably still are, I would imagine.
Yes, exactly. There's lots of people having the fucking real balls to protest about these things. I think we did a piece to camera when we was trying to fix the bike in using the guy's light. If in the middle of the night, 2 Kazakh geezers turned up my doorstep and said, "Hello, mate, I'm just travelling down the road here. Do you mind if we use your light to fix our bike?" I wonder how would I respond?
Well, the neighbourhood watch would have called the police by now because there's some dodgy-looking van.
Yeah, mate, we kind of live in a suspicious time, don't we? Or always have been, I suppose. It's always probably been like that. But yeah, it's kind of bizarre. What will we do?
The furthest I've been away from home on a motorcycle is Morocco, and I always find it a real adjustment coming back from Morocco into Europe. I found it it's a real shocker when you come back to Europe and people aren't smiling at you.
It's all right when you get to Kendal, though, because people start smiling at you again.
Well, only the ones who maybe recognise you, yeah.
What did you do out in Morocco?
I did a loop of Morocco with my girlfriend in 2012.
That's why they were smiling at you. In fact, they weren't smiling at you. They were smiling at Ashley.
Yeah, hello, chicken.
It was always funny riding behind her because people would just gawp at this quite small, petite lady riding past on a motorcycle.
And she is very beautiful. Ashley, I know you're listening.
When you first mentioned it, my first picture of you doing it was she was your pillion. I didn't realize she was riding the bike with you.
Yeah, she was. Yeah,
cool.
She literally just took a test and got on a bike and rode to Morocco.
14 months of preparation, and you still don't even plan a proper fucking route. But I'll let you off that. So was there any prep that you wish you'd done that you hadn't done? Any learning, that you wish you'd done other than how to change a fuel pump?
Like to get more mechanical knowledge. I don't think we actually carried much in the way of tools. Nothing more than kind of like the owner's toolkit, or maybe a few little bits and bobs extra. But there's no point in carrying tools if you don't know how to use them. I suppose you can always ask someone else to use them on your behalf, but.
That's true, actually. But that's I guess that's a testament to the fact that people do help you along the way, don't they?
They do. What we had to do was regarding the route, one of the only places we had to do much pre-booking was Ukraine, because the bad things about doing a trip with another foreign national from another country is the visa requirements are different. Like Dave, for his visa for Ukraine at the time, he had to book all his accommodation and have it in his visa application, whereas as a European, I didn't have to do that. So there is different requirements.
I think naivety is a great help, isn't it? In a lot of things, I've done lots of stuff where I thought if I'd have known what was ahead at the beginning, I would never have gone down that road. But I was quite naive about it, so I just went for it.
Yeah. What thing is, it's no point in getting too worried about something if until you've done it. Give it a go. What's the worst? Obviously, don't risk your life, but go for it. If you think you want to do something, have a go at it.
What bike do you have now?
I've got 3 bikes at the moment.
Excellent.
I've got the bike I used to commute on to work. The last one I used to go to work was about 1200 RT. But the bike I bought recently, well, actually 2 bikes I bought recently, was a 701 LR, which is very much mimicking the bike that I had to do the trip with. It's got the big tanks from the factory, yeah. So it's got a front and rear tank. And I've got a 350 Husqvarna, an FE. I've never in my life had a small enduro bike. I've always gone for a bigger one, bearing in mind I wanted it as a road bike as well as. And I did listen to your CRF 250, 350 rally malarkey, so I'm well aware of that bike. But it's a lovely bike, and I only got it a couple of months back. I want to learn a bit more about riding off road, because I don't know if it shows in the film, but obviously Dave's a bit of a demon on the dirt, and I was a complete and utter stroker. But I got through most stuff. The only thing that we didn't do on the trip that we planned to do was the Simpson Desert. When we got down there, we had to carry so much weight, and extra fuel, extra water, and the weight of the bike in the sand, and my kind of like healing arm. And I didn't have any skill set to do it. I could feel the vultures circling already, thinking, Jesus, he looks like a good meal. So,
did the bike stay in Australia at the end?
No, both the bikes were freighted out by KTM back to Mattergoffen. Dave's was type approved or stamped up for Australia, and he bought his. I didn't buy my bike. But what I did do was I offered it to John at Rally Raid. I think it had another life with another guy who did some trips with Lyndon Poskett.
Oh, really? Wow. So it's still going, presumably, as well. It's still.
I don't know where it is. I think Lucas, the guy who bought the bike, I think he had a bit of a problem with it.
Oh, did he?
I don't know whether.
Oh, don't talk to fucking KTM problems to Noel. He loves it. Look at his happy little face. Oh, KTM broke down, did it? Oh, that's a surprise.
I think it's a common joke amongst all groups of riders is the smug Honda rider who thinks his bike will never break down.
Oh, I've got 3 Hondas and 2 KTMs now. So I've got a 1050, the big adventure. Still got my old 400 that I've had from new, 2005. I've got the first bike I ever had, which is a CB125S, which is from about 1975 in bits.
Will it ever kind of hit the road?
That's the idea. That's the plan. One day. I've got a CB500X, which I'm going to sell because I've just got the new CRF 300 Rally.
When I sort of go to the bike show and everyone bloody descends on the KTM stand, I'll often just sort of wander over to the other side of the aisle and go onto the Husky stand.
Yeah, they're basically the same.
A little bit. They're basically. I know that's the weird thing. They're basically the same, but I hate one and quite like the other.
It just proves what a buffoon you are. They're the same bikes, just a different colour.
I think there are some minor differences, isn't there? The linkage, the suspension linkage, and other bits and bobs, but fundamentally, I think they're the same.
But I work with chainsaws quite a lot, and I'm quite used to the Husqvarna brand through chainsaws. I've got a Husqvarna chainsaw. Brilliant thing. So it's kind of my little gateway into Austrian bikes.
And they're orange.
Yeah, my chainsaw's orange. I'll never be able to look at it the same now, Clive. You swine.
I think Clive should just stick a little KTM sticker over. Is it Husqvarna or Stihl?
It's a Husqvarna.
What I always wanted to do was to get some of those monster kind of tear green stickers, massive ones, and put them on Noel's stupid CRF Rally to make it look like a rally bike, like their Dakar bikes have. Because he's like, oh, I've got a Honda. It's not like a KTM. Yes, it is. It's a Dakar replica.
Are you guys getting ready for your Evil going to the Pyrenees soon?
Yeah, we have actually started. People are making noises and getting insurance coverage, and Noel's changed his tyres. And...
Ooh, what size are you going to go for, Noel?
Well, it's, I bought a Rally off a friend of mine, and he put really nice tyres on it. Can't think what they were, but they were quite knobbly Michelin tyres. And then he brought a new 300 Rally. And he took the stock tyres off it straight away and very kindly gave me the stock tyres. I've ended up putting the stock tyres.
Mate, I think the stock tyres will be fine in the Pyrenees.
Yeah, they'll be great for the Pyrenees because you don't need knobblies at all really in the Pyrenees.
Don't, mate. Well, I was over there in September and I went down on a fair 50-50 tyre and it was fine.
Yeah.
I think it might be a little bit different if the weather's really piss poor and it is muddy out there.
The only bit I could think of where I've ever sort of thought, oh, knobblies are good here is just going over the Smuggler's Reach into Andorra. But other than that, it's stuff you could take a car down pretty much. So I think it'll be fine.
Well, and people do drive their cars up the
People do take cars down, yeah, looking for mushrooms. There's quite a bit of road work, and I'm riding back up through France, so I wanted something quite quiet, really.
Yeah, because we did Austin's Motel Mondo last year with a group of us. We were going back again next year. Sorry, going back this year as well. We wanted to get a banker of a trip in.
Yeah.
And we were just looking at the question of ferry or through France. We decided to ride it back. Firstly, because the cost of the ferry is so prohibitive. When you leave the Pyrenees area, especially where we was at Oleana, it's a 600k ride to the port.
Yeah.
And you're going west. If you did that 600k trip north, you'd be near Limoges. So you've only got another 600 k's to the coast, and then the 150 mile back from the port. So we kind of figured, for 1,300 quid, mate, I'd rather just ride it up. Okay, it's a bit of wear and tear on the tyres, but...
Was that how much it was? 1,300 quid?
If you go 4 up, it's obviously diluted even more.
Because ours would, I think 3 years ago when we booked this trip initially, I think it was about 400 quid each, wasn't it?
Yeah.
400 quid and sharing a cabin?
Yeah, I've done that
right,
a few times. It's always been about 380 quid, 400 quid, say, for a return. This time I've got a one-way ticket and it's been 300 one way.
Yes, I think that's about right, because I think we spoke about having an outside cabin so we had a window. Not that you really need one, you want to look at the sea.
But yeah, we are getting ready for it. It's quite exciting because the last month goes really quickly, doesn't it, before a trip?
Yeah, you get a bit of ground rush.
I'm waiting for Rally Raid to get their suspension. They're just waiting for the heavy springs to come in.
Right.
I haven't even done my first service yet. I've got to ride another 250 miles and get a first service and get new suspension fitted. Where in particular would you not have wanted to miss?
Undoubtedly, my favourite place was Kyrgyzstan. It was before you do a trip like this, you kind of like you're predetermined what you think you're going to like from just the way that the places are viewed by yourself. When we got to Kyrgyzstan, we realised what a lovely country it was and how mountainous it was and how accessible it was. There was loads of tracks everywhere, and you could kind of like it was almost like trail riding heaven. But I actually went back to the Stans in 2018 with that's what I was going to tell you. I went back to the Stans with the guy who drove the van. Me and him spent a month traveling around the Stans. So we went to Turkmenistan and Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. That was a good trip. We spent a month out there. But that was an organised overland trip with a company called Wild Frontiers.
On bikes or cars?
No, that was on road transport. So vans, trains, all different stuff.
Okay, and did they organise all the...
They organised the whole thing. That was good. I did that when I retired. It's funny how when you go back to... I was fully expecting to kind of have to get a visa for Kazakhstan. By the time we was going back, X amount of years later, there was no requirement for it. If you was just a traveller, a 30-day tourist visa was all you needed, and they're cheap as chips, and you just get one.
I mean, I don't know whether you can get this in, Clive, but I was just always wanted to know, when you always seems the most stressful part of the border crossings, and you had bad experiences at some border crossings, but did you, towards the end, were you more used to border crossings, or were you starting to view them with trepidation?
Yeah, these guys know what they want to see. If you show them what they want to see, it's no big deal. Have you got any aspirations to do anything like any long trips?
I'd love to do it. I've always wanted to do it.
Where do you want to go?
Oh, I'd like to do the sort of thing that you did, really. I think that really appeals. South America really appeals as well. Yeah, those two would be top of my list. But the problem is, I've got 3 kids, a mortgage, and 25 days a year holiday.
Yeah, because I like to take a career break from mine.
Yeah, I mean, that is potentially an option for me from the company I work for now. I've been there for 7 years. They'd probably do that. But my wife's set up a business a few years ago, and every spare penny we've ever had has gone and still goes into that. And it's like, yeah, we're never going to be able to afford to take a bloody career break, basically. But it'll work out one day, I'm sure. Listen, guys, I'm getting to go and have my tea. No, I just think we're getting better guests, aren't we? Since we've encouraged people to ring us up and get in touch. And I really enjoyed it. We had the 2, I don't know if you listened to last week's, it was 2 guys that have their own...
The light adventure guys.
Yeah. We just got on really...
Yeah, they were interesting.
Got on really well with them. Just really easy to talk to. And the same with you, Darren. It's been brilliant. Really enjoyable.
Mate, I've enjoyed it. I was listening to the podcast. I thought, well, maybe I'll have a chat with you guys. Because I'm sure we've all got a story to tell, haven't we? One of the nicest things that I'll rewind. Austin was a teacher at Mill Hill School.
For those of you that don't know him, that's Austin Vince, the king of all motorcycle adventure travel. All hail the king.
I worked as a firefighter in the local area. I met Austin through contacts, and he came to the station once to pick up. I gave him a camera that I had that I wasn't using, so he happily had it. But then we went to the first or the second Adventure Travel Film Festival. I don't know if you've ever been to it.
I've been like 4 or 5 times, I think. Now.
Yeah, I've been to nearly every one, apart from the one when I was away. He did a really lovely speech to the crowd before he entered, and I was nervous as fuck. Honestly, I couldn't string a sentence together. And he said a really lovely introduction, because he said, me and Dave, we went to do one of his workshops at the show, and it says it was so nice for you to come back to the festival with a film.
Yeah,
I'd done a workshop, went away, done a trip, made a film, and came back and showed it.
Just the spaghetti bolognese workshop.
He was talking about filming on a trip. He described it really well, actually. How you haven't got to be filming all the time, because all you've got to do is kind of treat it like lines in the road. You kind of like you travel along, say, okay, let's film for a little bit, make a little article of some sort, make a little package. Then you know you've got the edit. Often ride with a GoPro on in case something happens, but it very rarely does unless you're kind of going through a certain situation. Yeah, it was nice. I was really quite touched when he said you're the first person to actually bring a film back to the festival.
So that was Darren. What a lovely bloke. Don't forget to check out Continental Drift on YouTube and Mad TV, Motorcycle Adventure Dirtbike TV. See you next week, hopefully.
Thanks for listening. We really appreciate your support. Don't forget you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you really appreciate what we do, you could consider supporting us on Patreon or buy us a coffee. Links are available on our website, which is tampodcast.com, tampodcast.com, where we also have a limited selection of branded stuff. But either way, please keep listening and spreading the word. See you next time.